Well, we're going to continue on here on Live Now from Fox, and our colleague Josh Breslow talked with a TikToker that detailed her journey through all these delays, all these cancellations to finally get home. Here's this conversation from earlier today.
Paige, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for asking me. I'm honored.
Of course. So first off, just kind of walk me through your entire experience here at the airport and with Southwest.
Yeah, absolutely. So I originally had a flight booked to Indiana, and my brother was going to fly to Atlanta. And so our flights were about 10 minutes apart from each other. But I woke up that morning to a text message that said, hey, you've been rebooked, and now you have a layover in Dallas. And so I was like, okay, that, I'm going to have to work around some stuff, but that'll work. So we arrive at the airport with what we think is plenty of time, only to see this huge line already going up to the booth, but not at the self-serve kiosk. So we were like, oh, well, that's okay. Maybe that's for something else. I just have to check one of my bags. So we go up to the self-serve kiosk. I'm trying to put in my confirmation number and it's not working. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go up to someone. And it was luck, very much luck, that the woman in front of me's bag was taken, but then the supervisor, I'm assuming, was like, hey, we're pulling all of our employees off to do a quick meeting for 5 minutes. They'll be right back. So we all watch as they go off and do this meeting. And so 5 minutes passes, they come back, and the woman tells me, I'm so sorry, but at this time, we're not taking any more bags because, and I can't remember if she said all of the flights are canceled or almost all, but she said something along the sort of like all of the flights are canceled. And so we're like, oh, and so at that point I turned to my brother and sure enough, his flight is showing canceled. Mine hadn't told me anything at the time. However, I realize now it's because I actually read the date wrong and they had already rebooked me for the 29th, not to fly out on the 26th, which was actually when I was supposed to be flying out of Indiana because I was supposed to be surprising some friends. And so I was like, oh, well, that's why. But I ended up getting a text message early this morning that those flights that would have been on the 29th have also already been canceled by this point. And so anyway, we're kind of sitting around going, what in the world are we going to do? And we decide to look at Delta, but all of the other all the airports around us were either booked up full or I saw ticket prices as high as $3,500. Crazy enough, which is absolutely wild. And so we ended up finding tickets in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And my mom lives in Houston, but my brother and I are here in Atlanta. And so I just said, you know what? I'm not going to be able to go to Indiana. That's okay. We got tickets for to fly to Atlanta this morning at 6 a.m. in Baton Rouge. And so we took off on a 4.5-hour drive to Baton Rouge, spent a night in the hotel, and then flew out at 6 a.m. this morning. And I am thankfully home.
I was going to say, that's quite the journey there. What's going through your mind as all of this is unfolding?
Well, for me, I had heard about the storm. I knew that the storm had been happening. We had gotten some really cold weather in Texas and in Georgia. And so I knew that that was going on, but I knew that it was kind of on its way out. So I was going, well, what is going on here? And I knew that the line was absolutely ginormous. And in the video that I did, you see how long it is. And so I decided at that point, I was like, you know what, I have to document this here because for me, at least, I do daily vlogs. So I do daily vlogs every day and I have been for like the past 6 years of my life. And so I said, you know what, I think this is something that I want to document even more. And so decided to take out my phone and started recording and doing things like that. I also stopped and talked to a few of the, the people helping out because that was the thing too. There wasn't really any sort of announcement of what was going on. And so it was more just this confusion. And of course, you can feel the frustration in the air. And we passed a family who they were like, well, I guess the whole vacation's off. And they were like, what? And he was like, there's no point in us flying there because we're not going to be able. And I just felt absolutely terrible to hear all of these vacations and everything being, ruined. And when you're flying during the holidays, you expect some delays and cancellations because that's going to happen. It's the holidays. Things are super, super busy. But something like this to this scale, especially when all of the other airports had stabilized. I mean, the Delta flights in the airport were totally fine. All of the other airlines in that airport were completely fine. And I had been told there were only 12 more Southwest flights that were flying out of the Houston Hobby Airport that day. And I think people weren't able to be rebooked until about the 30th.
Yeah, we're hearing some reports of people who at the earliest are able to get rebooked for Saturday, which seems quite
Wow.
far out from now. Do you feel fortunate that you were able to drive and get to your destination?
Oh, entirely. I mean, I had a lot of people, especially in TikTok comments, I had a lot of people saying, well, if you're driving to Baton Rouge, you might as well just drive all the way to Atlanta. But since my mom lives in Houston and my brother and I both aren't old enough to rent cars without the huge surcharge that comes with it, my brother had to get back to be at work this morning. And so we were like, we have to get there. We have to get there one way or another. And I feel extremely fortunate that we were able to make the drive to Baton Rouge, that we were able to find those tickets. I mean, I know as crazy as my journey was, there are so many more insane horror stories out there that people have been commenting to me that are all over everywhere. And I feel extremely fortunate to be sitting in my house right now, home and away from all the madness.
So the Department of Transportation for the entire country is going to be investigating Southwest because about 75% of yesterday's canceled flights were Southwest. What are your thoughts on hearing about that being an actual federal investigation?
I mean, I don't want to say that I'm not surprised because it was very clear that something more is going on other than the weather. And I know they had been telling us, our crews are stranded in other places. And I was like, well, that makes sense. But all the other airlines had the same thing happen. So why are they working, but this one isn't? And then at the same time, no one could get on the app or the website or the phone lines were down. And so that's when I was like, I think there is something more going on here. So that doesn't totally surprise me. I mean, I certainly hope there's not going to be anything totally negative that comes out about it, because we've flown Southwest multiple times before and had no issues whatsoever. And I mean, I will say this makes me wary to fly with them again, but we've never, to go from having no issues at all to having something like this happen, it'll definitely be interesting to kind of see how their scheduling works. And I do just too feel bad for all of their employees and the people, because I can only imagine what they're dealing with. So I definitely hope when they do look into it that they'll find something that's of use and something that maybe can be fixed so that something like this doesn't happen again.
Are you surprised to see the feedback that you've gotten on the videos that you were posting?
Yes. I posted the video hoping that people would see it. You see a lot of people that are like, I never expected for this to happen. I didn't expect it, but part of me hoped for it because I was like, so many people are going through this and we can all empathize with each other, and seeing these different airports and what's going on, it sort of makes you feel connected in a way when everything else kind of feels like it's falling to shambles. And so I'm very glad that it's reached where it has. You do always come with the thing of when you post something like that on social media, I'm wearing a face mask in the video because I'm health conscious and a germaphobe and anxious mess. So for me, that's just what makes me feel comfortable. And I knew going in that if it did kind of blow up like it did, that I was gonna get comments about that. But I was like, this doesn't really matter to me. It's more just been seeing everyone's stories come together and seeing them respond to each other that, as I said, this sense of sort of community all across the nation that everyone's like, yep, we're there, we've been there. And just, it is insane though. TikTok has actually currently told me to slow down on commenting. I'm not allowed to comment anymore right now because apparently I was commenting back too quickly to people, because I want to comment back and say, I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope you get home safely, because, as I said, that sense of community. Yes, I'm home, but there are so many others who are not, that I can cross my fingers and hope and send all the good vibes out into the universe that they all make it home safely with their bags as well.
It's crazy to think about because you have, you're posting these videos, obviously hoping that some people see them, but the way that I guess social media works now, it's essentially viral and you're hearing from all kinds of people who you don't know and you're able to share your experience. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I'm 21, so I've grown up in the age of social media. I got Instagram when I was in middle school, I've grown up with it, but that's the one thing, and I know social media has its negatives, but that is one thing that I truthfully do love, is that you can connect with people from all over the nation, all over the world. And I mean, I've got internet friends of mine that are in all different countries, and the fact that I can keep up with them and see what they're doing and connect with them, that's just something that would be so much harder to do 2 decades ago, a decade and a half ago. So, you know, I love that sense of sort of community that you can get as long as you manage it. You know where the line is, and you know when it becomes detrimental to yourself, and then you take a step back. Yep. Oh, here comes my cat. There we go. Sorry. But no, it has been absolutely insane. And part of me is a little afraid of how much further it's going to go. Because as I said, I'm trying to comment back already, and TikTok's like, you're a little too fast. Calm down.
All right. Anything else that you want to add? Thank you so much, by the way, for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, of course. I was so surprised to see the message that I was sent, and I was like, the news wants to interview me? Like, what? No, I very much am, I just send all of my thoughts, my prayers, my good vibes, my everything out to everyone who is still in it, all the workers, all of the pilots, all of the, you know, flight attendants, everyone waiting. You know, this has truthfully messed up so much for so many. And, you know, once again, it's a risk you take when you travel during the holidays, but not to this scale. So I hope everyone can, you know, I don't want to say find some sense of positive out of this, because that's a little hard. But just, it isn't too detrimental to them. And I hope that, the employees, everyone is treated kindness and respect. They're just as stressed as we are. So don't take it out too hard on them.
All right, good advice there. And I'm glad to see, of course, that you're at home. Thank you so much for taking the
Yes.
time to join us.